Good evening, everybody. We're calling the meeting to order. This is the regular meeting of the Clear Creek Community Services District for August 17th, 2022. And we have 4 board members present: John Trineri, myself, Erwin Fuss, Scott McVeigh, and Chuck Jones. Patricia Delzell, unfortunately, contracted COVID, so she is gonna not be here tonight, obviously, which is good. So, but we do have a full board, and we will continue with our agenda. The first thing on the agenda, well, by the way, I want to introduce Bill Palamesa, who is the interim general manager, and we have several members of the staff here in the audience as well. The first thing on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. Patricia was supposed to do that. I'd like to ask Chuck if he would lead us in the pledge. Here we go. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Not too bad. In fact, we're almost in unison. Pretty close. We're gonna practice. Okay, at this time, item number 3 on the agenda is open time pursuant to Government Code S54950. Persons wishing to address the Board of Directors on matters not listed on the agenda should notify the secretary. Well, you don't have to do that. If anybody is interested in, excuse me, in addressing the board at this time, we ask you please, if you come up to the podium and have your say.
Which Dave?
David's first.
Okay.
Thank you, Winners. I'm still doing the Firewise Committee. I want to give you a report on the last meeting. We had 35 people show up. We had our speaker, she made it. It was very informative. We have a lot of people that are interested, and our next meeting will be the 25th at 6 o'clock at the Community Hall. And it's mainly to form our committee. We have to get our committee started.
Could you repeat the date and time, please?
The 25th, Thursday the 25th.
August?
Yeah,
What day is that?
Thursday,
Thursday.
6 o'clock.
6 o'clock.
Yeah,
Community Hall.
yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandy. Anyone wishes to speak? Yes, good evening.
Hi, I'm Dave Bartle. Some of you may recognize me. I don't recognize a lot of faces, we've seen each other before. I'm going to take over for Johanna on Friday. And she's going to retire, and I think she said no parties, no attention, but I think she's done such a great job for the last 20 years. Luis, give her an applause. So Friday, I don't know if you guys are familiar with that. It's just the trash pickup. We do it 3 times a year. So October, beginning of October, the beginning of February, and the beginning of May. And I'll be reaching out to folks, and it's always in the water bulletin. And if you can just maybe find once a year or twice a year, come out for an hour or 2, be great. I'm going to try to, bump it up a little bit. Not that Joanna hasn't done a great job, but just maybe get some T-shirts made up, or get some sponsors, and maybe some prizes for people. Get the kids involved. So you guys will get to know me.
Before you sit down, will you also take over the annual trash pickup vouchers through Waste Management?
Oh yeah, that's part of it. Yeah.
In fact, if you want.
So that will be coming up. That's actually coming up here pretty quick. And
September, 2 months.
And so basically what that is it's a household cleanup with the county where they let you take in paint and furniture and things like that at no charge as long as you were a Happy Valley resident. And that's sponsored by the county every year, and that will also be in the bulletin.
Okay, they won't take paint.
Oh, they don't take pay?
No, they don't.
Oh.
But there are a couple of.
Well,
things
you're right, it
that-
doesn't say, well, I used to be a painter, so I always have paint on my work.
So will you be bringing vouchers to our next board meeting?
No, the vouchers are already here.
Pardon?
The vouchers are already.
Already here, yes.
Okay.
So,
I'm just wondering if we may need to put it in the newsletter that customers can come to the
Yes,
office. and
it'll
get it.
be
Sure.
in.
Excellent.
Sure, why not?
Yeah.
so this is my first round, will come up in October, I'm sure I'll stumble and make a couple mistakes, and hopefully we won't leave more trash on the road than when we started. Anyways, so nice to meet everybody, and looking forward to being part of the community again.
Thank you, Dave, appreciate it. Thank you for stepping up. And, anyone else care to speak at open time? You'll have an opportunity to speak when we have the individual items, and we'll open it up for the individual items as well.
If there's any questions for me, I'm only here for open time. Do you have something on the top of your paper? I don't think it's agendized.
Oh, yeah, I want, Beverly Fitness. So my question was, I was gonna ask about the auditor report or the exit interview to see how it went. I don't know how much detail you can go in for all of us to how that went.
You want to respond to that?
I got the nod.
Yeah.
No, I'm not gonna sit in front of you.
You know,
I might get the nod.
yeah, no, you're good. So it was a very lengthy.
Could you come up to the
I
podium?
really don't want to.
When I'm sitting here, I can't walk fast.
Okay, I'm with you. So it was a lengthy exit meeting. The auditor, I think, did a fantastic job. I think what probably, another year forward from now is going to be a much shorter and less painless process, was not so this year. And, there'll be, quite a few, suggested adjustments in the packet that you're gonna get. Each board member will receive one bill, and then two will come to the office, one for your new bookkeeper accountant, and then one to have on file.
Okay.
So I believe you should have them by next board meeting in their entirety. All of it is subject to partner review with your auditing firm. So there'll be, I'm just gonna give generalizations because it is all still subject to review. There's gonna be some capitalization of a new generator purchase that maybe didn't make it on the books yet.
Generator?
It was from, these are purchases that were made in the past
Oh,
that weren't maybe capitalized, okay? There was an investment with a company called Principal. It's computer shares that hadn't gotten on the books for whatever reason, I'm not sure. Some of these things have been part of your assets for a very long time. But even after they went through what we provided, which was direct from the source software with complete transparency, that's why there's 2 pages of notes. So, and they're a brand new auditor for y'all, so they were being very, dot every I twice, cross every T twice, because it's their first year and getting those established beginning balances that we were kind of waiting for. We still don't have those yet, but they're getting super close. As a reminder, you guys did ask last month, why are we seeing so many deposit refunds to customers? And I let you know you're gonna see a bunch more. There's like this much more on my desk to get that deposit held for customer account cleaned up. So that's what those deposit refunds are going back to. Like when you started your account here, you gave us a deposit depending on how long you've been a customer. You're no longer a customer here, the refund should have already happened to you, but it was still on your books.
I didn't catch that.
Deposit refunds, so like Scott said last time, if you were no longer a customer here and you had a deposit on account, there should have been a refund sent to you. So there's still a lot more to clean up, of course, but, so those are a couple of those things. There will be changes, postings to reclass some items that were posted. I know that you guys have mentioned that there was some overstating between one account, the merchant account, and the general fund account. Maybe a couple things were posted twice. I think you will probably see something to that effect in the final report, but again, it's all under partner review. And then some accrued payroll liabilities, that sort of thing. Overall, most of the things that were pointed out or that they found through their course of their audit were things that we've already seen as far as processes and that we already had put into place, corrected better practices to grow from. For example, the Cal OES. We already identified that before it was the corrective action plan, and we already put things into place to grow from. Same thing is gonna happen here. So when you guys do see your final report from the auditor, for example, one thing that there was a mention, not a finding, was board minutes. Well, you all have been participatory in helping us solve that. So the board minutes need to be done timely, they need to be approved timely, signed timely, and available for public review if it is through a public record request timely. And like I said, you guys have participated. Somebody who doesn't know, the Community Action Group, the Happy Valley Community Group, offered and helped catch up on some meetings, minutes, so that was something like that. And then there's a few other things, and they're already looking at next year. They've already requested some, like the Macoma contract from us, the CAP information, it was accepted, and all those things. I don't want to give somebody else's information away, but I've already provided those to them.
Okay, thank you. So we'll get a chance to see it next meeting and everybody else will see it.
Yeah, I would think, you know, that it's that time of year where everybody's busy. I'm sure the auditor is just as busy, but, so hopefully we should have by, we didn't give like a hard deadline because there are several issues that they still need to look at, and we want it to be correct when we get it, so.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, anybody else? Anyone else? If not, we'll move on to item number 4, the consent agenda. And it says here, following items are expected to be routine. Any interested party, that's you or members of the board, may request an item be removed from the consent agenda for later discussion. And we're talking about the paid bills from 7/8/22, 7/13/22, 7/8/22, 7/28/22, the payroll from 7/1/22, 7/15/22, 7/29/22, and 8/5/22, and the minutes from 6/16/21, 8/4/21, 8/25/21, and 9/8/21. Is there anyone from the board that wishes to pull an item to discuss? Is there anyone from the community that would care to pull an item to discuss? If not, then I'll ask for a motion. We have a motion to approve.
I'll second
And we have a second. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None opposed? Motion carries. Consent agenda is taken care of. We'll move on now to 5, new business, old business. And 5A is a public hearing on the final budget. And I'll let Bill lead us in this.
This is the same budget with a little bit of a tune-up. Some suggestions from the last meeting, we made it balance. I think the big thing to take from this is the format is actually going to change when we switch to QuickBooks. So this is the final format, but the final numbers that we're proposing. We added a dollar amount for penalties, and I included the activity report from the end of last year. And last year's budget, it was separate because we couldn't make them look good all on one page.
All right, any questions from members of the board?
Just real quick, I know we've had the discussion, Bill, but are you still of the opinion that over the course of the fiscal year, we will probably not collect base, water, and the ancillary other things on about 15% of the customers?
I mean,
Yeah, approximately 406
that's
customers.
the projections.
Okay.
I think we might see more with being able to shut people off,
That's what
and late fees and.
Right.
But just because we have a better month than others, it's hard to say
I
that.
understand that. I just want the board and the community to understand that if 15% of the customers are not paying, that equates to approximately $520,000 this fiscal year.
A lot of money,
It's a lot of money.
a lot of money.
Something that.
And a lot of water going out too.
Okay, I'm not saying it's gonna end up that way, but I am saying is potentially there, and it's probably something we need to address. We're a business, we sell a product, water. PG&E sells electricity, you don't pay them, they shut you off. I know it's kind of a hard case, but the rest of us who are paying our bill are subsidizing people who don't wanna bother. And that's not fair to the community as well.
Perhaps I've got one question. if you don't mind.
Yeah, please.
Is the penalty charges, they're listed at $124,500. Does this take into account any creditor, which would be takeaways?
Adjustments, yep.
Uh,
We had 1 month that was before adjustments, I thought it was pretty close to $90,000.
Right.
So, yeah, we took adjustments into consideration.
In your memorandum, you indicate that there was approximately $15,000 in customer overages and late fees, not collected yet, but just for the month of July, $15,000
Right.
potential, so.
Yeah.
Now, if I can, one more question.
Yes.
Does the staff need help? I know back in, was it 2013, an ordinance was passed that they didn't want to spend the staff time and postage to mail out late notices or do some of those things. Do we need to do something to kind of step up to the plate and encourage people to pay? Is there a staff position or a part-time that needs to be done? Or anything, do we need to repeal an ordinance that was back in 2013?
Well, we never did repeal the ordinance. The ordinance, there is an ordinance that stipulates late fees and if you don't pay your bill, you get your water shut off. But then the governor came along when the COVID thing came along, and he stopped that, so we couldn't shut anybody off because of that.
So was that 2013 ordinance overturned?
Yeah,
Oh.
we have,
We did
we have an
that?
updated shut-off
That's
policy
fine,
in
yeah.
2020.
Right, it's still there.
No,
Excellent.
the new one incorporates all the new, regulations. For shutting somebody off.
I ran the numbers for July on expenses and potential income without including the 15,000. And the actual expenses based off of the check, account were 205,364 and a few cents. And the potential income is 260,475. But at 85% collected, we lose $39,000 if we don't collect that. So my question is to collect that money so that we balance the budget or put more money in reserves or are able to do some of the O&M that is necessary, do we need anything from the staff or an increase in staff or something to help us collect that money?
It's time consuming going
Yes.
back and trying to collect, past due bills. And
I know you're working with a collection agency, but those are the older accounts, I'm assuming. 1, 2, 3, maybe even 4 years old.
Right. To enforce to do all the shut-offs, to, do door postings, all that stuff is time consuming.
I agree. Is it worth doing to either do the proper shut-off so that they pay? Or, so in other words, is there a business case to be made for doing this, expending the extra time?
Oh, it's, somebody could stay busy just keeping accounts current and shutting people off.
And what do you think potentially that staff time and even postage might run monthly?
Oh, I don't know.
$8,000?
The most.
Okay, but it would be offset by collecting, you know, $30,000 to $34,000 additional income possibly. I look at it as a business case. Sally, you do some of this work.
Yeah, well, part of that takes so long is you have your bill, and then you have a delinquent notice, and then you have to try and call them. You have like 3 different steps before you can actually shut them off because of that ordinance that we were investigating last week, you know. So, and that makes it difficult by the time you go and send the letter and everything, another month has gone by, you know, and these people, part of the problem is they don't have current phone numbers. You can't get a hold of them. And they're in San Francisco, a lot of them are, you know, and so we go through the map quest to see.
Are you talking about the meters that are installed but are not being actively used? That
No.
1081?
The ones that are being also,
Oh, so you're talking like maybe a rental property?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
All right.
And the meters problem, you know, but the ordinance seems to make us jump through a lot of hoops to do it legally. And then we do the 24-hour notice, and then finally they'll come in under the wire and pay some.
Pay some, okay.
Yeah, and there's enough to squeak them by. And then they walk out the door, and then you can't get a hold of them again.
Is there some way of streamlining the ordinance, or is it strictly by the book?
Yeah.
So we have to do that.
Well, you have, I know you have certain state laws that you have to follow in regard to this, so as long as the ordinance sticks to that, but it just takes time and effort.
Can Bill or Sally walk us through that process so we understand what you're having to do?
Are you talking about the steps to shut somebody off?
Yeah,
Let me,
It's on the website.
yeah, it's on the website, and, hold on, shut off policy. 20.
Might not be as much of a shut off as to get someone's attention firmly, so that they understand that they need to pay some money and to provide us with that information. That's my understanding.
Does the ordinance or the law give a minimum payment that we would have to
We
accept?
have to offer people a payment plan, they have to keep it current, otherwise they can be shut off.
Correct.
They have to be more than 60 days delinquent.
Correct.
They can get, I believe they can get a letter in 30 days, and then they can get another letter in 60 days. And then, the district shall not continue residential water service for non-payment until a customer has been delinquent for 60 days and no less than 7 business days before continuation of service for non-payment. The district will attempt to contact the customer by telephone, written notice, and then
Also, we've edited our delinquent notice that they hadn't, when I came here, Kristen hadn't ever sent a delinquent notice because of the COVID, okay?
Mhm.
So we've edited it to where we have a verbiage in the body of the statement saying, you know, what your options are, you know, and so on the 21st, we'll be sending out delinquent notices. So we're trying to get in a pattern of doing that. Which
Good.
we're not before, and it takes time.
Oh, yeah.
So, and so it has to be sorted out basically 60 days and above or over, you know, and then you would believe how many have been sent back to us. I don't know if it's the post office or what, but I mean, several people have been calling, looking for their statements, and I've been calling several people that I've got back for no good reason, their statements. I don't know why we're having this problem, but we are. You know, and so anyways, you tell them, well, you know, here, this is what it is. I'm not calling you because you're late, but here's your bill. You know, and I don't know why, but then, you know, you got the ones that are just, you know, growing pot, whatever. They just don't care. You know?
Yeah. We had, what, 3 customers last month who incurred $1,500 penalty
yeah, something like that.
from one of the things you sent out.
Probably the other part of this, Beverly, to answer your question, is that then what happens is that they get run through in a batch. So in other words,
They get
all
what?
these, they get run through in a batch,
Oh.
all at one time, so that it's, you know, you're gonna run through all these people. So you pick the time when you've got the time to coordinate that, And then all those people get that 60-day procedure also.
Yeah, we're projecting for the 21st, or not, plus or minus, depending on if it lands on the weekend, whatever. But that's what we're trying to stick to, is that the cutoff is for the 20th for our bills. 21st, the notices go out, delinquent notices specifically.
The 60 days,
Right.
and then when do they get shut off? When do you go out and cut them off?
According to the
We give them some time, depending on when the 21st lands. I don't know, we can give them like 7 days, but it just depends. We don't wanna do shut-offs on a Friday,
No.
because people will just be getting called out over the weekend.
So,
So we give them 10 more days, but then we gotta do a 24-hour posting.
It's just a 24, not a 3-day.
Right.
Okay.
Well, seems like we gotta get a handle on this.
It's too much money to walk away from.
Yeah,
If this item is complete, there was only one other item that I was gonna inquire about.
One more aspect, I want to get on the record. There are customers out here who, by legal definition, can get federal assistance for that because they are below a certain level, but they have to apply for that government assistance themselves. The district can't do that for them. And if their income falls below a particular level, then they qualify. And so anybody who's like that in the community, that is how they can get some assistance in paying that utility bill.
also the health and safety code, because you can't shut anybody off if they're on oxygen or needing
Correct.
water for their ailments, and you just can't do it.
But how are you gonna know that?
When they come and tell us, is they gonna get upset. I very first one I ever really noticed for, by the time I got back from lunch, it was already having to be turned back on because he was, under the,
So you have turned off some people already?
I believe so.
um,
I know that there was a list and some,
we put out notices, and then, like I said, they come in under the wire and then pay a portion of it. They
I
don't-
know they've done they did door hangers one time, and everybody that got a door hanger came in and paid.
So
door hangers are good.
Yeah. But we
So-
still have.
If you're a renter, you're gonna get a hold of your landlord and say, hey, they're gonna turn my water off, you need to pay.
Well, good job on that, good job.
That's all the office staff.
Okay, are we good?
I think so.
Okay. The other item that, maybe a quick review of how it works is in other revenue on page 2.
on the revenue,
The Win Act fee, along with the state loan fee, what I noticed in the minutes that we just received is there was a reference with regards to, how that works legally. And I'm just curious if the Win Act fee of $52,850, along with the state loan fee of the $28,000, if that is based on collecting money from our base rate fees.
No, the expense is the expense, whether we collect the money or not.
Okay,
But as far as the collection, yeah, we reduced it by 15%.
Yes.
and so is there a number then that we anticipate collecting from the base rate toward the payments, our next Win 2 payment?
No, the Win Act is a separate line item on the bill. You would assume if someone pays the base rate, they're gonna go ahead and pay that $1.98, which doesn't cover the current payment. that we're making.
He collects it.
That's a whole other story for another time.
I understand, that's fine, thank you.
Basically, we reduced the water sales, the base rate, and those other add-ons by 15%.
15%,
Because
right?
if we're not collecting the base of 15, we're not collecting the other.
Right.
Okay, any other questions? John? Any questions from the members of the community? Any questions? Okay, we're being asked to adopt this proposed budget. This is a public hearing. I'm gonna open the public hearing and ask if anyone from the audience wishes to speak on it in the public hearing.
Beverly Pickens, just one comment, on the last page of your budget, in the shaded green, which mine isn't shaded green, but that's what it says. our reserves that we have for the end of the year, is that, we're only making $10,000 extra?
Yeah, if it ends up exactly like this, which I don't think it's going to, we're gonna have, this says $10,000. So where's the reserves going? The WIN Act and inflation.
Yes.
That wasn't taken into account when we did the base rate 2 years ago.
The $1.88 WIN Act on your bill, only collects $61,000 of the
Right, but
245
you
payment.
Minus 15%.
But you can keep that on our bill for a long, long time to pay some of that back. So, we've only got $10,000 in our kitty. That's if everything goes great. So at least it's green, but how do you feel about that, Bill? Is this, are we gonna be able to try to save money somewhere?
I feel good about it because when the rate proposal and everything was put together, there was money for reserves. Things cost so much more money than they did 6 months ago. And everything that we were gonna put aside is going to essentially the winner, give or take. So, your question is, do I feel okay about it? Yeah, this is not negative.
Yeah,
But
okay.
unfortunately, we're not collecting enough to cover the payments, so that's a lot, so we've got more going out than coming in.
Yeah, so I think it's important that we really go after, people that aren't paying, because that can give us an extra $500,000, so, thank you.
Anyone else? It's the public hearing. Anyone else? If not, I'll close the public hearing and bring it back to the board. I want to point out, now, we've talked about this, this is a big guess. This may not turn out to be what we get at the end of the year. But we do have, and it was voted on by this board about a year ago, maybe 2 years ago, that we are going to have in January a mid-year budget review. So we'll take this, we'll take a look at all the expenses and all the money that's come in, and in January, we'll bring this back and take another look at it and see where we are. And it'll give us a better idea of whether this is gonna work or we have to modify some things. Usually have to modify.
Right, I did take a look at our income based on our merchant and general accounts for the first 6 months of the calendar year. We had approximately $328,000 growth, okay? So, we are on track to be doing probably better than budget says.
Yeah.
Unless we have some major breaks, unless inflation really hits us
Yeah,
hard.
there we go.
But there's other issues we have to deal with too, as far as staffing, and then the contract negotiation with the union.
On top of upcoming regulations, that you have to comply with, that we're not sure how we're gonna do yet,
Things break.
sampling.
Yes. That copper lead coming up,
We budgeted for that.
oh, did you? Excellent.
Anyway, so if any other comments or questions from the board members? If not, Chair will entertain a motion.
I would move that we accept the budget as presented, since we already have in place a review at 6 months. Yeah.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to accept the budget as presented. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Now, next thing on the agenda is, let me get back here.
Well, before you go with that, can I touch base on one thing? I noticed when I was doing the, bank statements and the balances, that the merchant account grew significantly. So monies that are being paid online or whatever aren't being transferred over to the general account very timely. The merchant account went from 71,000 on January 1 to 370,000 on July 1. So some of that money's probably should have gone into the general account, because the general account only increased from 338 to 367,000.
That's not really fair.
No, I understand that.
Because all of the checks come out of the general, so it's not
Right.
gonna grow the same, because they're not.
I understand that. I'm just wondering if we should be transferring money from that merchant account over to the
They
general.
make transfers.
Okay. any idea how often? Because
No.
it seemed like the balance from January 1 to July 1 went up by 300,000. Okay, so I don't know if you're doing semi-annual, annual, or quarterly, or,
They do it I think they do it every month.
okay.
That's really how it breaks, isn't that how that turns out?
What's that?
It's just how it breaks on the time frame.
I'm not sure if they're following a policy for transferring from one to the other, from the merchant to the general.
Okay. As
So
long
the
as you're
general
looking at
technically-
both,
But it's
The
but you can
general
transfer
The general,
somewhere.
or the merchant is technically part of the general. So
right,
on the
I understand
ledger,
that.
that's the breakdown.
right. We grew from a balance of 409,000 on January 1st to 738,000 in July 1, which is positive. That's a good thing. More water. Okay,
Okay, shall we move?
yeah.
Okay, moving on to 5B, director compensation review, discussion, and action. I think, Mr. McVeigh, wanted this on the agenda, and he was gonna talk.
Yeah, I did some research on it. Go ahead.
I just wanna say, I didn't see the signatures for this meeting.
Oh,
Oh,
the
it's here
signature
somewhere.
sheet that Christie's been providing?
It was.
Somehow it ended up over here.
Okay.
Sign after I do this. I was taking a look at some of the government codes, and, government code, if you really wanna know, is 53232.1, speaks to, special district board member compensation. And it has a couple of things in there. I researched, those codes. I researched what other similar special districts dealing with water, what their directors are being paid. And I found that we're pretty much on the high side. Typically, it was anywhere from $0 to $10 to $25 a month. The highest other than our own was $50 a month. In here, it speaks to a recommendation that it not exceed $100 a month, and that you can possibly do a 5% annual increase. And I'm wondering if we have done this, followed through with this properly. I'd like to see us reconsider an adjustment to our compensation so that we're showing the staff and the community that we are here to be part of the solution and work with increasing that 10,000 green budget, excess. Because if we cut ourselves to 50 or 100, we're then putting that money back into the kitty used for other things. Now, I have heard that if we cut it too much, it might make it more difficult if there's an opening on the board for people to apply, but I personally don't care if I get paid at all.
I think the difference between 100 and 150 is not that much, you know.
Right.
Somebody has an interest in being on the board, $50 is not gonna make that much difference.
Well,
Wait till
So
you
what's
have a
the
fair
thing?
meeting.
so I'm proposing to the board to discuss and consider adjusting our compensation, which includes for the standing committee meetings also. For your consideration, I'm okay with discussing it and, how you feel. You know how I feel, I don't care if I get paid or not.
If I may, I've been on the board for quite a while. John has been on the board longer than I have. When I first came on board, I don't know if we had an ordinance that specified how much the directors got per month. But I was told that I would get $150 a month. It's been that way ever since I've been on the board, $150 a month. And then sometime back,
Well, when I first started, it was
$100.
and then we went up to
Went up to 150. When I first got on the board, it was 150, and it was supposed to be 150 for a month, for, it didn't matter how many meetings you went to. Then when, Mark Engel was on the board,
Yes,
he suggested that we put together an ordinance that would, cement in the $150 a month, but then it would be another $50 a month for every meeting you went to. And if you had to go downtown or something like that, you'd get paid mileage for it. And I think the board approved that. I did not, I voted against that. But anyway, the ordinance is in play right now. And so theoretically, any board member here could get, an extra $50 for every meeting you went to,
Correct.
including the 150 base rate.
On this one, and then special board meetings or standing committee
And
meetings.
when that ordinance went into effect, I went to the bookkeeper at the time and I said, I don't want any more than $150 a month. So just give me $150 a month and that's it. If somebody wants to propose that we all get $100 a month, I'm okay with that too.
Okay, can I read one more section on this legal, review of special districts? It says, many special districts can increase board member compensation pursuant to California Water Code, section 20201, which both sets the maximum amount of compensation per meeting at 100, but also authorizes board members to increase compensation above 100. Although this may welcome news to districts interested in increasing, there are 3 notable restrictions on a district's ability to do so. If a special district board can increase compensation via section 21 or 20201, it must do so via ordinance. The increase may not exceed 5% for each calendar year, and voters may petition for a referendum on the ordinance increase in compensation. So we need to look at making sure whatever we do properly, following various codes.
One thing I would suggest is we do have an ordinance in place right now that allows for getting paid $50 extra for every meeting you go to, including, committee meetings, and getting paid for mileage going downtown to a meeting. I would suggest that whatever we decide on here, that we cement it in an ordinance and approve the ordinance. And it may not have to approve it this month, but you have to approve it next month after we determine what we want. But we need an ordinance that sets it. So I'm open to whatever you want to do.
Okay, if I may, there was a suggestion about, that maybe in the past that board members did not receive the $50 for, let's say, a special meeting. I made a clarification with staff about that. Asked, what's the policy? And what I was told that perhaps is in this ordinance is that that $50 was approved. What I was also, the suggestion was that there was a $600 maximum.
I remember that, yeah.
Okay, so somewhere I do not have that ordinance.
That's per month.
500, it's 500.
And it's
Oh,
in
500?
our codes.
I seem to remember something like that.
Okay, then I heard that wrong. And I didn't request to see what that policy was prior to this meeting.
Can I make a comment?
Yes.
Yeah, well, yeah, we can,
Yeah, let's open it.
let's open it up, sure.
Take your time.
That's why I'm sitting up close. Sandy Winters, I bought some hay about 2 weeks ago down on Coffin Avenue in Dairyville. And everything down there,
Would you face us when you're
everything
talking?
down there was nice and green, the bar ditches were running full of water. I made a comment about our water district up here. The guy that was selling hay, is on the water board for the Tama Water District. They get $25 a meeting. But they're not under federal control. They do what they want.
In response to that, I know someone who is, not willing to serve on the board, and also made a comment about there being no payments to those board members. And that whole situation was objectionable from the standpoint of willingness to be on the board and lack of payment. And as a professional working, who lives in Red Bluff, works here locally in the Red Area.
Anyone else care to comment on this? Open it up, let's hear about it,
I'd like to say something.
please.
accept it. Anytime they ask, I don't say no. But because of my financial problems, I have been taking the $50. And also, I come here and I sign checks. I'm not paid to do that, okay? And I don't mind. But I have to admit, the $50 has helped me a lot. But if you wanna bring it down, that's fine, but I'd like to be compensated because of the price of gas, coming here and spending when we have closed sessions. Our last one was what, 3 hours? Okay, and I think $50 for 3 hours of time is not overextended. That's just my personal opinion.
That's what I'm looking
Thank
at,
you.
is opinions.
And that's up to you guys. If you don't wanna be paid, you don't have to be paid. If you wanna donate it back to the community.
I'm not gonna discuss my financial position. And I really have no further comments on the subject. It's gonna be a matter of, where this goes based on the discussion.
Well,
With community input.
I have to admit, now, we have an ordinance in place. And the ordinance says that you get $150 a month, and you get paid $50 for every special meeting you go to, and everything you do for the district. For instance, coming in and signing checks, I come in and sign the checks too. That's, in the ordinance, says you get $50 for that. I don't want $50
I
for that.
don't either.
You know, the only thing that I got, when I got on the board years ago, it was $150, that was it. And that's all I took, and that's all I want. And that's it. And the ordinance would pay me for all these other things. I don't want all those other things, you know? So, we need to take that ordinance and carve it up and put in it exactly what we're gonna get.
The other comment that I'll make is I went to the LAFCO meeting that Erwin Fuss was at with regards to, the main item was the new fire district
Oh, yeah.
formation. So that's all time. That amounted to a half of a day. There's no money associated with that.
No.
I'm driving down there to watch the procedure to support Erwin simply by being there.
Thank you.
And that's a non-pay item. So if there isn't gonna be compensation for board members, there may be a willingness to go to a LAFCO meeting, which I've begun to do, or any other item which is relevant to board business. And this is a responsible position that should be treated with respect, in my opinion. And a small compensation for the time spent or the research work done, that it takes place on all the sheets of paper that have been requested of board members, the ink, the printers, and the paper. I'm not convinced I'm willing to do that out of pocket. Thank you.
Anybody wanna, oh? Please.
Thank you. Joanne Bloomquist. I commend you for discussing about decreasing your compensation. I think that sends an excellent message into your negotiations with your union members, because if you're asking them to do any cuts, you're going to take a cut. But I do think you need to be compensated. I would suggest a compensation of $100 a month. But I think compensating you for every meeting you go to at $50 seems a little extreme to me. Also, Scott mentioned that ordinance should have been put to the voters. I think I heard you
No,
say.
you have the right to do that. The voters do.
Voters have to petition, they would have to petition
Okay. And at that
to
point.
put it up,
there
to put it
were-
on the ballot.
Yeah, at that point, there wasn't.
A referendum.
The Happy Valley Community Committee point, I'm sure there would have been people that would have asked that that be put to a vote. But no one was paying attention at that time, and now people are paying attention, because that seems a little extreme to me. But that ordinance was passed by the board members, but I commend you for considering the reduction. So, I think that sends an excellent message to our union members, that, you're doing that, maybe you could ask for them to do something too.
Okay, thank you.
I agree with everything, but where the LAFCO is considered, maybe meetings that are farther away, you could group together and ride in the vehicle together instead of everybody going individually. Just a suggestion.
Well, when we sometimes would go to Sacramento, and we would drive our own car down there, and that's a pretty long way down, so we get mileage for that. You know, I don't wanna drive my car down there and use my own nickel for that, so I got mileage for that. But I didn't get paid to go down there.
No, we never got
I
paid.
never got paid, we just got,
We always said
well, we got the
no,
mileage.
just get the mileage.
I just have, Scott, you had mentioned that you checked districts, water districts around the area,
Well, actually, throughout California.
throughout California, but locally, have you checked with like Bella Vista and?
Yeah.
And they only pay like $25.
ACID and others.
Okay.
Yeah.
And they pay only $25 a month.
The range was, a lot of districts, no compensation, 10, 25, the max I
The
saw was
local,
50.
the local ones.
Local, 50 was the max.
I
Bella
mean,
Vista?
I don't know what Bella Vista
I think it's
is, I checked ACID.
see that, I mean, that's what I would say, is
Yeah.
if you wanna do this in a fair manner, you know, pick what the local guys are doing and come up with a solution that way.
Yeah, well.
I mean, otherwise you just arbitrarily picking out 100, 150, you know, I mean.
Well, make a motion.
I think we need to discuss it more, you know, and come up with possibilities. I
Scott,
brought this,
I have one little
you
thing.
go right ahead.
Thank you so much, I appreciate you bringing it up. There's an unpaid group out here, Happy Valley Community Committee, that participates probably twice as many meetings as happen, and they do it unpaid. And every one of us believed that this was a volunteer position. So you get a little compensation. I feel like it's great, it covers your cell phone, so you can receive emails, you know, a little token of some kind, but no other service district has to have a watchdog committee helping. And there's volunteers out here doing it, and if we compensated, I mean, Beverly's hours per week. I have friends helping, my sister helps, my dad helps, we've got Caitlin and the videos. I mean, no, Bella Vista doesn't have to have a community committee out there helping out.
Old Chapel
So, well, Old Shasta may, okay, we'll get with them and figure that one out with them, but. But as we're talking about compensation, just remember, it's a volunteer, and we're all out here volunteering and giving multiple hours. I never dreamed in my life that I'd be sitting here going to meetings every week to talk about water. I don't love water. And here I am.
You need it.
I need, exactly, so I have to be here to make sure it happens. So I just want you to keep that in the back of your mind. Chuck, you were sitting right next to us as a volunteer, and you were all right with it then. Scott, you're always my hero, but just keep that in mind, you guys, as we're talking about this, that there's multiple hours, I mean, hundreds, if not thousands of volunteer hours out here, helping you right this ship. So, this conversation's a little challenging for me. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? Well, like I say, we've discussed it here, waiting for motion.
I would like to get a better feel from the board before we, this was brought up for us to discuss, to, discover whether we've done things right, do we need to change anything? Can we show the community and the staff that we're willing to be part of the solution? That's been my whole motivation on this. So, I would be interested in how the others feel about any change at all to any compensation.
John has expressed her
Right. You kind of expressed yours.
Yeah, like I said, I came on board, it was $150 a month, been that way, I've not accepted any more,
I haven't either.
and
It's
and
just
I don't want,
recently.
I got,
because
here
of everything.
recently, I got 200 because of a meeting, but I told Christie I didn't want to do that, because she's no longer here.
Well, she is for another 10 days.
So I have to tell the next bookkeeper. But I'm,
So if there is recommendation from any of the board members, no matter what it is, I'd love to hear that. I didn't want to come in and tell people what to do. You know my opinion. I understand some compensation if you're printing out the entire packet. I understand, being retired and trying to work with the budget, but is there some middle ground we can meet? That's all I'm asking. Or do we leave it alone for another few months?
No, I don't believe that we're gonna leave this alone,
well, you can't leave it alone, because the ordinance says that you get paid for all these things. And
Okay.
gotta change the ordinance somewhere along the way, I would think. Anyway, Chuck, you
Or
had
you
a
can
comment?
just say, I don't want to be paid. That's what I did for years, never was paid. Even when I went down south. of-
So you're saying it should be done on a volunteer basis?
At the present,
Okay, at the present, but Erwin is saying it should be memorialized in an ordinance.
Yeah.
Because the board members will change over the years.
right,
So-
And for instance, if the ordinance said everybody gets paid $150 a month, that's it. You can either take the $150 or you can
yeah,
leave it.
I say, look at the ordinance, and you can make.
No, let's just make a decision.
But you better change
But
the
if there is an
ordinance.
ordinance.
Yeah.
then
You
we
better
have
change
to
the ordinance.
see.
And what does it take to change the ordinance? How
A
would we-
new ordinance, somebody write a new
That's
So
ordinance.
what do you want me to put in the ordinance?
Yep,
You guys
give
have
us
to
a new
decide.
ordinance, and we can discuss.
Bill knows how to write an ordinance.
Yeah.
So at the next board meeting, you can bring us an ordinance. Okay? Do we need?
So that was the purpose of tonight's
Somebody wants to make a motion.
What are we putting in the ordinance? Is it gonna be $100 flat a month, $150 flat, or? That was,
Well, we're not
I told
talking
you so.
about
That was from
what
the-
we're making as a board member. It's got to do with all the assignments that we have to take up.
Well, it can be any or all of the above.
Yeah. But
It's
it
open
should
to
be-
what you guys decide.
But it should be in an ordinance.
Yeah, fair enough.
is it up to me?
Well, I'm gonna say.
No, it's up to them. So what are you guys comfortable with? A flat 150, no other meetings? A flat 100? I don't know.
Okay, we are missing one board member tonight.
Yes,
Yes.
We have an upcoming election,
yes.
and I believe that the people who can apply, that is closing on today, is that correct?
It's already closed.
It's already closed.
Closed a week ago. Last Friday.
So we should,
The ordinance is on the website, and it was updated in 2017.
What's that?
The ordinance was updated in 2017, and it's on the website.
It's on the website? Okay.
And it talks about all the things that directors can get compensated for
Yeah.
and reimbursed for. So it's not just meetings.
Right.
No,
There are
it's-
expenses and travel. and-
Right.
It's mileage, it's all kinds of things.
Yes.
Maybe this should go into a committee, because I mean, it's not just,
Finance
Yeah,
committee?
that's a good idea, put it in the
Yeah.
finance committee, and hash it around, and bring it back to the board
exhibit.
as a proposed ordinance.
Okay,
Sounds fine.
okay.
I'll tackle it.
Okay? All right then,
any further comment from the public?
we're moving on. Item number 6,
We need a motion,
item number 6, operation and then, I
do
think,
we need to make a motion?
no,
Okay.
don't have to make a motion at all.
Before we go there, Erwin, can I bring up 2 items of quick business?
Yeah.
Area Community Center would like a just put in the next bill.
Oh, yeah, well,
You've done that in the past.
yeah, we've done it always.
I understand that, but he asked for approval.
No,
Okay, so I will let him know and he will provide you copies.
yeah,
The other thing that was brought to my attention that we have to.
Hold on. Don't commit to putting anything in the bills. That should be at the staff level. It's not really a board decision for one. Two, I think if we're full, we can't.
we have never done it at the board level before.
Yeah.
Okay.
So let me tell you how it worked. I can tell you how it worked for years. I'm the guy that made that flyer, by the way.
Okay.
And I would take that flyer, and we had a community member who donated the money to print 2,300 of them. And I would bring the box of 2,300 here and say, here it is. In October, usually is the month, because you didn't have any other thing going on at that time, to put in the bills, then they put that in the bill.
We can only have so many inserts. And
I understand.
if you,
So,
if you overdo it, then we have to do it by hand. And I
Yes.
think there's a box of things that have already been committed to go into the bills in there.
That's fine. If you've got certain letters, it's when it's the best time
Okay.
for the
Yeah,
interview.
yeah, but we never really had board.
Okay.
The board never.
Harry gave it to me a couple weeks ago and asked me to bring it to the board, so I've done my part.
That's right, because they're all new people, that's right. When Harry used to bring it in,
Yeah,
there were other people here.
right.
Yeah.
The only other item that was brought to mind, go ahead.
The machine won't fold that third one, is what Kristen is telling us, that we'll have to hand fold those and hand stuff those. It won't stuff it and fold it, the third.
You've got the bill, the newsletter, so we won't take this one.
There's one other already. That would make the third.
You have the envelope that sends it back with, you send it.
I've worked the machine, I know how
Right, that's what
fickle it
she-
is.
So we used to bring it, and they used to put it in.
Yeah, it used to work well, and then it stopped taking it. But they they did come in, I think last month and serviced it, so we're hoping it will take it, but they're,
Well, if it doesn't, then these guys consider one of their meetings in full.
Right.
Right.
I worked with the
We need to be
technician
compensated for that.
back in. And he talked about opening up and cleaning the rollers and things.
We could do that.
That's what Kristen is saying. Kristen is
If
saying.
we're done with that, I've got one more item.
Yes, sir.
It was brought to my attention that by, I'll have to check the dates, but by October, November, we have to renew our resolution with Shasta County on, the Political Reform Act, Government Code, okay? And that we as a board have to
Are you
approve it and
familiar
continue.
with this? No, okay.
Okay, so we do have a couple of months that we can put it on the agenda for the next meeting,
Okay.
but it is somewhat time sensitive to comply with Shasta County.
Is this something that can be done internally through the office?
And this one from the last time was signed by the chairperson,
Oh, really? Okay,
okay?
okay. So it does have to come to the board.
That's what it appears to be,
Okay.
okay?
Certainly get it to the board. When you're done with that.
I'm done with that, go ahead.
Okay. Shall we go to operations and administration? 6A, operations report? No?
Okay. Of our current customer accounts, I've got some new numbers here. There are 127 delinquent accounts. And instead of the 164, and that totals about $50,000. There was 50 overage penalties for $15,000. This last for July. Lead and copper sampling has been completed, and part of the new revised lead and copper rule is lead and copper service line inventory. And so the state's gonna require all water systems to report service line inventories of every service from the meter to the residence by 2023. And this will be very time consuming. Very expensive. As a matter of fact, this is so new that, we and other agencies don't know how to pull this off just yet. The templates for the reporting were just released 2 weeks ago, I believe.
So you have to have this by January 1, 2023?
No, it I think it's mid-2023.
Mid,
That's just the inventory portion of this.
mid what?
Mid-2023,
Okay.
I think it's next summer.
Every service, all 2,710.
So this is testing for the lead.
2350-ish.
2350, okay.
This
So-
is testing of each individual.
No, it's just an inventory of what the service line from the meter to the residence is made of.
Whether it's
Galvanized, copper, plastic.
PVC, lead containing.
Galvanized, yeah,
Now, you're talking from the meter to the home, not to the meter itself.
I believe, actually, part of the main line's incorporated.
Both,
in it.
yeah.
Well, it's both, because you've got some pretty old main lines out there.
None of them are lead,
No,
but
but,
galvanized is a good one.
aren't some of the older ones, cement asbestos?
Not service lines, no.
Oh, okay.
This is going from the main line to the meter, and then from the meter to the residence.
Right.
Clear Creek CSD has been chosen
in your board packet.
for the 5th round of UCMR, and it stands for Unregulated Contaminant Monitoring. And, we recently just learned of this, and we don't know exactly what this is gonna cost, but this is being handed down from the federal level, from the federal EPA. And this will be quarterly. I'm a little bit familiar with it, but not for the constituents that they're gonna have a sample for. I have no idea what it's gonna cost them. It'll be quarterly. I think that's really all I had, other than for surface water for July, we used 170 acre feet and 70 acre feet of well production. And I think right now we're just over 100 of surface water.
Okay, so we have stepped up some.
Oh, yeah.
Good. And I think the customers are pretty happy with it.
Those are my highlights.
Okay. Bill, this was in my board packet from FEMA.
Oh, that's the OES.
That's the.
That was just, showing that the, project got extended and that they accepted the response to the cap.
Okay, well, I think that was important because we had discussed it.
I was just trying to shorten it up, I'm sorry.
Yeah, capital OES, they accepted the corrective action
Yes.
plan, but don't we still have to do some ordinance cleanup?
Yes.
And there's supposed to be 2D review on any, bid process and whatnot. Do we need to put any of the legal writing into a packet or like even to that grant file? Because they were concerned that that grant file didn't contain the proper information as far as the following the right FEMA procedures in the bid process with air and water quality, the disbarment or suspension aspects,
Did Did you read this? Did you get this in your?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there's two aspects. There's, one is the backwash pond.
Yeah.
Extension, and then the corrective action plan that we dealt with at the last meeting. But I'm not sure that we had done everything. It sounded like, Christy Santori at Calaveras was happy with what we had done. But I wanna make sure that we're not missing the opportunity to follow through and if there's another piece that we have to do.
Okay.
I wanna make sure that the file's proper. You indicated that there were a lot of things, like the cap should be in the file.
It is.
Yeah, along with the minutes, and I personally, I don't know whether the legal requirements are that we have the proper wording for, FEMA grants and whatnot included in there. It should be part of a bid packet that goes out, so that anybody bidding for a project needs to follow all of those
The
guidelines.
project hasn't gone to bid yet,
Right.
and that'll be separate
But,
from what we're talking about.
Didn't one of them one, they didn't get bids, we didn't do minority or women-owned businesses included in the bid. In fact, who's the engineer, Pace Engineering? They, didn't provide the proper information from what I read on that grant for their portion of it. So that was part of the issue that we had to address in the cap. And do we need to do something to ensure that it doesn't happen again?
Yeah,
Simply
For
writing
the
a quick.
FEMA, no, I mean, it's not gonna happen again, because we're not gonna start over.
Okay,
I mean, if we got
Well,
more FEMA funding, I guess it's lesson learned.
oh, okay.
I don't
I'm
know.
trying to be proactive.
The checklist you go through.
Right, but it wasn't
It
done.
wasn't
No, it wasn't done.
Okay.
So we're here
There
now.
is a checklist, we need to make sure.
Right.
They go through a
okay.
checklist.
So as long as we have the checklist and it's followed, then I'm good with it.
Well, with regard to the code of ethic, I see what this is. Every year, and for those of you who are running for the board, you have to do the same thing. You have to file Form 700.
Right.
Which is your disclosing your income and all your investments. And what this is every year we have to determine, the board has to determine who is eligible to do the Form 700. And the designated categories are chairman of the board, vice chairman, director, general manager, secretary to the board if there is one, assistant manager, the chief financial officer, the superintendent if there is a superintendent, and any consultant that we deal with has to file a Form 700.
Right.
And that's what we'll do. So that'll come to the board.
Right.
Okay, does this need to go to Bill?
Yep. Yep, that's the template for it.
We can go online and do that.
They want you to do that
The form
online now,
Form
yeah.
700, yeah.
Yeah, we used to do it paper, but they want you to do it online. Okay. All right. So operations report, all done?
Yep.
So the next thing is 6B, standing committee reports. Since the last meeting, have we had a standing committee? We have. Right before this one. We had a personnel committee, and I'll tell you what the outcome of the personnel committee, if you will allow me to do that. We've been looking for a general manager for quite a while. We had had original recruitment, and it took so long that most of the people got another job. We had another recruitment, and none of those came through. We did get quite a few people who applied, and when we asked for people to send in resumes, we sent out what the requirements were for the job. A lot of people just sent in resumes, they had no idea what water was. So we rejected a lot of those, obviously, but there were some good ones, and out of the 2 recruitments, we got nobody, 0. We, as some of you know, we did have, in our first recruitment, a gentleman who said that he would like to talk to us about doing an interim general manager job, a part-time general manager job, because he was retired from PERS, and if he worked here, he could only work 950 hours 960 hours in a year. And we didn't talk to him originally because we were trying to find a full-time general manager. So it became apparent we weren't getting a full-time general manager, so we did talk to this gentleman. By the time we talked to him, he had already gotten another job. When he sent in the resume, he didn't have another job. But he did get another job with a local firm, not a public agency, but a private company. So he can work as many hours as he wants, and it doesn't affect his retirement. So when we interviewed him with the idea that he would then become a temporary part-time, if you recall, temporary part-time interim general manager to take Bill's place, so Bill could get back to the water treatment plant doing what he needs to do there. We did talk to him, and we could not come to a decision with him on how many hours that he would have to spend here as an interim general manager. We wanted him to spend more hours than he had the ability to do, because he would have then jeopardized his other job with the private company. So in speaking to him, it became apparent that if he were to work for the other company and we were to contract with the other company, there's a possibility that we could then work with him as an interim general manager, and there wouldn't be any problem with ours at all. And so at our personnel committee meeting, we said that we were gonna make a recommendation to this board in closed session when we discuss this later on tonight, that we discuss that possibility and perhaps look at going that route. That was one thing. Since we closed the recruitment, we have gotten 2 other applications, 2 other resumes that have come in. One resume from one person who does not have the qualifications, and the other one has more than enough qualifications. I spoke to the gentleman that has more than enough qualifications, and he is available, and I'm gonna take that to the board this evening, because that's been recommended by the personnel committee and the public was here. The only member of the public was Beverly here, but we engaged in good conversation. And then the other thing that we talked about was, in past recruitments, we put a date certain for the end of the recruitment. And probably that was a mistake. We should just, if we're gonna recruit, we need a full-time general manager eventually. So if we're gonna recruit, we ought to recruit just ongoing.
Until filled.
And that is, are they part of?
Until filled.
Until filled, yeah. And that is the other recommendation that's going to the board tonight for discussion. So that's the result of the personnel committee that took place at 4:30 this afternoon. And that's all I got. Moving on, number 6C, questions and public comments, please.
I have 2 things for Bill. One in regards to the lines on the distribution that you've got to check. How do you check the lead and copper line? Are you gonna have to dig up people's meters?
It's called lead and copper service line inventory, and there are no lead service lines in the district.
Okay.
And to check them, yes, we're gonna expose them. If we don't have a record, then we have to expose them.
So how would you have a record?
As-built or some detailed drawings from previous operators in the file.
Okay. And then you said you had 127 delinquent accounts. How do you lock those? So if you went to lock 127 meters, do you have enough locks to lock 127 meters?
We have a lot of locks. I don't know that I can count 127, but yeah, I don't.
Lock the first 50 and the other.
The other
Okay.
ones will pay out.
That's a great question.
Guaranteed they'll pay out.
Okay.
All you have to do is get, the word gets around that they're locking off, and people will start paying. Anything else? Okay, having no other comments, we're going to go into closed session now, and we'll adjourn to closed session to discuss the following items: public employment, building code 54957, general manager vacancy, and B, conference with labor negotiator, and as I understand it, we don't have anything to discuss there tonight. Or do we?
There's one thing.
We do have one thing, okay. All right. And then, when we adjourn from closed session, we either have nothing to report because no decisions were made, or when we report it out, we will report out what decisions were made. Thank you.